Hello, everybody, and welcome to another live stream. My name is DC. If you're new here, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome back. It's good to have you here. A little bit of house cleaning first before we get going too far. I have two legendary members of the channel that I need to shout out. Number one, John Shinell. Thank you for becoming a legendary member. I appreciate it. And C Green. I forgot to shout your name out last time, but this time I have remembered, so thank you for also becoming a legendary member. For anyone else who wants to become a member of the channel, you can click join below this video and become a member and have your name shouted out. There's also lots of perks, which I've talked to death about, and I don't want to go over it too much, so go and check out the channel membership if that so interests you. Today's topic of video is we're going to be talking about the things I wish I knew before I started working in a SOC. Now, some preface to this, I don't currently work in a SOC. I used to work in a SOC as a SOC team lead. That was for pretty much the entirety of last year. It was for a project that a government agency needed done. So, with all of that said, yeah, we'll get started on the video in a sec. I'm going to be answering some questions at the end. So do throw some questions in if that so inclines you to do so. And yeah, let's see who's in the chat here. We got Monu LP says hello. Check Nadom says hi guys. Janum says hey. Miles Roman says sup dude. What's up everyone? It's great to be here on a live stream. There's been lots of really awesome live streams in the cybersecurity online community recently with NameCon. All of Codingo's stuff that he's been doing recently, and some of the stuff that's Stock and John Hammond. I almost said John Ham Hand because I saw a meme about it. But anyway, no shade on you, man. I'm just brainwashed by the meme. Elango Sivakuma says, love from India. I love you too, India. Colin Manson says, long time no live stream, David. Has it been that long? I think it's been like 2 weeks. I'm not sure. I didn't do one last week because I was pretty busy with work, but I am doing one tonight. This stream will go for roughly, probably 1 hour, I would say. So for the next hour, we're going to be talking about the things I wish I knew before starting in a SOC. So for this video, I'm going to be bringing in a friend of mine who I believe is currently working in a SOC. So I'll just grab him into the chat and we can welcome him. Gaz, welcome to the live stream. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good.
What's up,
Good, good. So today's topic of video is the things I wish I knew before starting in a SOC, which I'm pretty sure you would have some good insight into. tell us a bit about the where you're working at the moment without giving too much away, obviously.
Yeah. So I am in a 24/7/365 security operations center. It's like global kind of thing, but we're based centrally somewhere else.
Yep.
We basically advertise as an MSP with our main feature being literally every hour, all hours is eyes on glass. So there's a bum in the seat. Someone's always checking alarms. Will always be there.
Right.
So yeah, it's based off of like shift work. So we do 12-hour shifts, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. for 2 days, and then 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. for 2 nights, and then we get 4 days off.
Cool. Okay, so that's a pretty extreme timetable to be working on. Although I think that's fairly common in SOC teams. I have seen a couple where they've done like 1 week on and then half a week off type thing.
Off.
Yeah, but that seems to be getting rarer these days with more and more people being available to take those positions. What's some of the things that you wish you knew about working in a SOC before coming in and working in a SOC?
It's I thought it was gonna be like balls to the wall, constant, like high intensity. Oh, there's an attack here. Oh, there's an attack there. But that's not always the case. There's definitely some downtime. But when it does get into like there's something happening, it does get really, really intense.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like one thing. But the other thing is definitely fatigue and sleep management.
Yeah.
Because you're doing like such long hours, you need to be able to sleep through the day or have like 3 hours sleep to be able to wake up again and all that sort of jazz. And your body clock gets screwed a little bit, but if you manage it properly, then it does turn out to be something quite useful.
Yeah, for sure. And that seems like the case with, there's a guy I know who works in a NOC team. He's a network engineer in a NOC team. And he was saying like the first month or so of him working was just like rubbish. Like he couldn't handle the sleep patterns that he was having to form to be able to do the job. So he was saying like the first month he was just like brain dead essentially for the job. But there is that transitioning period. But if you if you set yourself to have like a shutdown sequence, essentially, it's like, okay, well, I close the curtains, I wash the dishes, and then I start slowly getting ready for bed. Even if your body clock's not used to it just yet, you're still inducing that, I guess, that routine in a sense. Yeah, right.
Close off as much light as possible.
Yeah, I was about to say blackout curtains for sure.
Yeah. Best investment I think I've ever had is blackout curtains. Like I don't even notice the day anymore. It's nuts.
True. Damn, that's crazy, man. I've got a guy in the chat here. His name's Colin Manson. He says, we do a 7 to 7, 4 on, 4 off. I think that's the more norm.
Common one.
Yeah, like schedule in a SOC team. From what I've sort of noticed anyway, that one that I was in last year, where it was like 7 on and then 3 off. So 7 days on, 3 off. The days were anywhere between 7 and 9 hours, and you had up to a 1 hour lunch break, which I guess is one of the perks of government, which is nice. And although a lot of places do a 1 hour lunch break, which is awesome. And
being on shift, you do get a little bit more perks. So like, for example, like I get like an hour break, as well as like 15-minute breaks between each, like 3 hours, I suppose.
Nice.
Just to like break it up even. Yeah,
for sure. So just on like the perks and I guess not so perks of working in a SOC, what do you reckon are some of the really good things about working in a SOC that you really enjoy?
Well,
have a thing.
obviously,
You're like,
yeah.
trails
Yeah,
off.
I definitely had to shove some things out of the way to try and get to the good bits, but money's always good. So like being on shift, you get like added an extra 2 weeks annual leave, and you get like an extra 5 to 10% pay rise and all this stuff. But of course, that's trading off like your health essentially.
Yeah.
If I were to say, probably one of the biggest perks is I really love night shifts. Like I'm currently on night shift at the moment, mainly because I can you end up spending that time to be able to like study or focus on like projects that you're doing and all this stuff, and they allow you to do that because as long as you're doing the work that's been set out to you, the free time that you got at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, there's no alarms going off, not often anyway, so you got plenty of time to crack down on something like OSCP or like further studies and all sorts of stuff.
True.
It's that, and people I would have thought that being on shift and not seeing the team so often because you're always alternating, it'll cause some sort of like disparity with like relationships in the SOC, but I kind of found that's actually quite the opposite. I've actually gotten quite close with people more so being on shift than not.
Yeah, right. I find I'm a bit of a social butterfly, and I've found in my most recent contract where I don't actually see anyone except the clients, where not being able to see the guys, but just chatting to them on Teams or Slack or whatever. Yeah, it does kind of irk my biscuit a little bit because I really love talking to people, but that's the only downside, I guess. But it's not. We're not talking about pen testing or contracts today. We're talking about SOC teams. So let's stay on topic, DC. So the downsides. Let's get to the downsides of working in a SOC.
Yeah, so like the big one is, of course, your sleep patterns is going to be screwed, and sleep itself is such a vital part of your health. It regulates your metabolism. It helps you like rejuvenate after like a long shift and all that stuff. And if you're not getting enough, then you can be quite screwed. There has been some cases where I've not been able to get to sleep, and I've had 2 hours sleep and then had to do like a 12-hour shift and then rinse and repeat that again another like 4 times.
Yeah.
So and that kind of screwed me over. So I'd probably say the main one, and that's probably the same with a lot of other shift workers, even like mining industry, is there's some sort of health defects, I suppose.
Okay.
But if you can manage that and regulate that, it just means you got like less time doing other stuff like play.
Sure. Yeah. So
you'll be able to like pass it pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's fairly true. So with like actually, I want to talk about the recent exchange, hafnium things, just to tickle that little bone quickly. What's the how much of an impact did that have on your life working in a SOC? And not just the hafnium thing, but I mean, like, in general, people who are working in a SOC and these sort of exploits or vulnerabilities or massive issues that sort of cripple huge services, how does that sort of affected your work-life balance? And what was the vibe, lack of better word, in the SOC team when that sort of broke through?
So I've been in a SOC for a few things, and even in a CCERT team during some ransomware cases when they first started coming out. It's definitely you end up being on call without intentionally being on call. in a way.
Yeah.
So you're like during the exchange stuff, I was constantly reading up on it, because of course there's always ways that you have to figure out a way. Hey, is there a way to monitor this? Is there a way to alarm on this? Can we see it in our environments that we're managing, etc., etc. Depending on the pillars that your SOC is actually like working on will depend on how you respond to it.
Yeah.
But for me personally, every time something new comes out, it's like it's kind of like a wet fish to the face, essentially.
Right.
And it like you get a bit of shock, and then you're like, after a minute, you're like, hang on a minute, that was definitely a wet fish. So it's sort of,
absolutely a wet fish.
yeah. That was okay. Yeah, that was definitely a wet fish. Yeah. But this exchange one specifically was pretty interesting because majority of the time, if we're like a lot of the exploits that we've been dealing with, would have to work around stuff like network-based attack vectors, because I'm not sure if because of the pillars that we're working on, we don't specifically work around so much on the EDR solutions.
Yep.
So if there's like localized ransomware, we might be able to detect that with like packet detections and all sorts of stuff, but
some sort of endpoint protection type system.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but with this exchange one, we've actually been able to like actively report on it and alarm on it and all this stuff. It's been quite interesting actually. So
yeah,
it's a bit of a different pace, so it's good.
I have
but
found
still
this
a wet
one
fish
to be slightly different. Yeah, definitely a wet fish and lots of messing about. But I did find with Microsoft releasing that PowerShell script that came out that sort of helped to identify if there had been a data breach or I guess some sort of compromise of system, that did certainly help out. And I know the guys in the SOC at the place I'm working now, it's sort of like a virtual SOC because it's an MSP. It wasn't like a SOC in a traditional sense. It was more of a virtual one. And they did run that script across pretty much every Exchange server. I know they had issues with the 2010 ones and some older ones. And yes, there are older Exchange boxes out there. There's so many clients out there with Exchange 2010 and older, unfortunately. But they were actually more safe against this particular attack because it was focused towards, I believe, Exchange 2016 and 19 more than anything.
Yeah, 19.
Yeah. So pretty interesting. Yeah.
It comes to the point, like when you're in security, you're screaming like a mad dog going, legacy doesn't matter, you need to upgrade. But then in this case, like legacy is what kind of saved a lot of people when you think about it.
In a way, yeah.
yeah.
It's
which is totally
strange.
backwards.
Yeah, although they're still prone to, like, in general, more vulnerabilities than, say, someone who has 2019. It's just that Hafnium was sort of targeted towards that thing.
The newer gens.
Yeah. Quick shout out to anyone who is currently watching this. If you could give me a thumbs up, it does definitely help the channel. I've got to say these things, unfortunately, to try and boost the videos and get them across. So yeah, jump on, become a member, like the video, comment, ask questions, all the rest of it. That's it. What was the next question I had lined up? So we've gone over Hafnium, the perks and the not so great things. I guess, so what sort of was the expectation you had before going to work in a SOC versus the actual reality? So what was that expectation versus reality of going into a SOC? And then I'll once you've said yours, I'll go through mine.
Okay, yeah. So I, before going into an actual SOC, I came from a CCERT team, so like an incident response team. So I was not only doing the monitoring, but also doing the like end-to-end incident response. coming into a SOC that's focused primarily on the monitoring pillar, I still thought that there was the essence of going like end-to-end incident response, which I kind of dig. I like digital forensic incident response and any other kind of like IRs. But the expectation was kind of, blown through the water, because this is just hey, there's a thing happening here. You should look into it, and then alerting the CSET team that's on the client side. So I guess it's like it went from something that I had to use like 95% of my brain to something that's like a point and shoot kind of thing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, right. So myself, I went before I was working in that SOC team. I was working in another organization in a more field-orientated role, and it was very different to what I was expecting. Like when they said SOC, I was thinking of a SOC similar to the ones that I would report back to when I was working in that field team. And it was very different because this organization was much smaller than the one I was previously at before that. So when I went in there, it turned out to be a lot more meetings and GRC focused stuff, unfortunately for me, because my personality doesn't really work with GRC, to be honest. I'm much more of a cowboy. But going into that role as a SOC team lead, I really had to concentrate and listen and try and behave myself as much as possible when talking to, especially when they bring in like external auditors. So like they would bring in these massive company names like KPMG and Deloitte and stuff. And they come in with these, those guys are ballers, by the way. And they're so much fun outside of the meetings. But when they're in the meetings, oh my God, it is like, it's like watching paint dry. It's so
all of them is like, oh, do you have split personality disorder? Yes. Oh, perfect. Sweet. We'll
do you have a split personality? Exactly, yeah. So, kind of shots fired at the GRC team, but mostly because I'm just so bad at it. So it's just
I come from GRC, so I'm like doing the self firing. So it's all love.
Yeah, that's it. So that was sort of the main expectation versus reality for me. The other thing was I was really expecting it to be a lot less hands-on tools, but being a smaller organization, even at like I guess it was like a supervisor or very low management role, I only managed like 6 guys. And I was the escalation point, which was really interesting because at that point I didn't have an awful lot of experience with like hands-on tools type work like that. It was a lot more, it was just very different to that from, where I was previously working. So that was a bit of a shock to the system for me as well. I wasn't quite expecting that. I thought I'd just be telling people what to do, but unfortunately there was a lot of me telling people what to do and then them saying, why don't you just do it? And I was like, right, okay. Fair enough.
Well, you give me this solution here. It sounds like you got free hands. So,
exactly. I remember one guy who was a pretty cool dude. He's like, that sounds like a great plan, so why don't you do it? I was like, fuck. I'm like, shit, alright, well.
Essentially dobbing yourself in for
it. He's like, great plan, go do it. I'm like, I have no authority here, damn it. What is this? Yeah. So, anyway, what did
you prefer more? Like, back-to-back meetings or really, really slow, long days where you're just staring at a blank fucking piece of paper or something? You know those days where you just got brain fog for like 24 hours? Or back-to-back meetings? Which would you prefer?
I preferred the meetings because I got to talk. As we all know, I'm a psychopath and I love talking all the time. So there was that definitely tickled my fancy a little bit more than say, for example, like chasing down or jumping down this massive rabbit hole into something that doesn't really even matter, but because it was put in front of you, you have to investigate it. Sort of like what a threat hunter would do, or maybe even like some other sort of incident response type role. But this place didn't really have that role. Like, it was so small, they were just like, oh, you know, just have a look into it. But have a look into it means like write a full report and jump down this crazy rabbit hole and just spend hours and hours. And that was like massive brain fog for me. So, and because I was like stuck in this little room, sort of just chilling, there was no one really to talk about it, because that like it had been escalated to me. So the only other person was the chief information security officer, and he didn't want a piece of it. He was like, "Nah, dude." He's like, "Go away." Who are you? I tried that like the first week. I even called in like an external contractor from the place I was contracting through, and just to come in and like essentially hang out for a day and go through this this one thing I was inspecting for ages because I was struggling with it so much. But yeah. Spill the beans.
It really brings up the point. It's like when you're in security and like you're in a team, once you pass that NDA firewall, like you become more solid because you can actually tell people cool stuff that you've done. Whereas like I would love to tell people the cool stuff that I've done for like research and some of the cool incidents that I've dealt with, but you can't talk about it, which is like
that's it.
Almost a deal breaker when you can't talk about the cool shit, you know?
That's exactly right. And that's actually a good segue to the my most popular video was when I was working at that job and I went into a data center and all this other sort of stuff, and there was an SQL injection thing, and it was all like a typical day in the life. But that video was actually recorded over the span of 2 weeks. And I didn't want to show it as like, this is what 2 weeks in a SOC looks like, because 2 weeks in a SOC is kind of boring if you go day by day. If you want to look at it in like an entertaining video kind of way, there's a lot of sitting at a desk and reading stuff and talking to people. So I wanted to compress as much of what I did into like 1 day video and sort of go from there. So, and even that, a lot of people said this looks so boring. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, dude, there was SQL inject. Like, I was doing SQL injection. I went to a data center. Like, I went on a little day trip and everything. I bought a packed lunch. It was out of control. I had meetings. Like, holy shit. I mean, this stuff is normally like a few days over a course of like a month. And I packed it all into one video for you, and you still tell me it's boring. Like, come at me. So
if you think penetration testing's any different, then
exactly. Yeah, I've been wanting to do, because I've been doing this network and cloud pen testing stuff for the last little while. I wanted to do a day in the life of a cloud pen tester, but honestly, the video that I released is so much more entertaining. There's a lot of me like, it would consist of this. I wake up and I make a coffee. That would be like the longest part of the video. The second longest part would be me driving out to a client and having like a conversation with them about their systems and security and the vulnerabilities that I found in the last report, and asking them if they've acted on those. And the 99% chance is no, they haven't. So then you go and you
legacy. Yeah,
exactly. They're like, no, yeah, especially like software development teams. They're like, oh no, legacy. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. So it goes nowhere. And then that would be like halfway through the video, I reckon. Then it'd be me taking a lunch break and like eating a burger and taking photos of it and sending it to the Discord server and talking shit in there for a bit. And then back to work, it would be me writing a report. So each pen test that I do has a cap of around 4 hours for the report. And a lot of the actual pen test tasks themselves are automated. So a lot of that is, it's all one big fat script that I just run over each system. And it took me a while to automate those scripts, but because each client is different, obviously, you can't just run an automation over the top of everyone. but I've been to
Yeah.
all the same places for the last almost a year now, and it's pretty easy to automate what they have because I already know what they have and what's vulnerable because it's still vulnerable. Like they haven't done anything about it.
Yep.
And that's essentially it. You write the report, you send it off, and you do it all over again. And yeah, it's a lot less interesting than it sounds. But sometimes when you do find something different that you didn't find last time, or they've introduced a new system, or the most fun thing is when they have a new project coming up and they want some sort of like security architecture over the project that they'll ask you to jump in on and have a look at. So that's the really fun stuff for me. I also really enjoyed recently doing more automation tasks, but more in like a DevOps space. So those are pretty fun as well. I have been doing a fair bit of that recently, which is fun. But anyway, I'm getting off topic of SOC teams here, as per usual. So I guess the last question I have is, in a typical SOC team that you've seen, what are the different roles that exist?
Different roles. Okay.
Like just job titles, basically.
So I guess the only the main thing that they go around is like if there's like a level 1 or like a tier 1 like a security analyst, or like a level 2 security analyst, then there's security engineers. Then there we also have pen testers here as well during our our tiger teaming stuff, or like purple teaming. Then of course you got the GRC compliance side. So they are just governance, risk, and compliance, and that's like the main. There might be like identity and access management stuff, but that's kind of rare from what I've seen. But apart from that, it's mainly just like security analyst or senior security analyst, or translated to tier 1, tier 2, or engineer, and so forth.
True. Okay, so they're fairly broad titles. That's similar to where I work.
Okay.
Yeah, they do have like, they'll just call everyone who's out in the field is a field engineer, like literally a field security engineer. And that's it.
Wow. Okay.
That's your title. It doesn't matter what you're doing out there. You're just a field security engineer. And then inside, everyone in-house is just a security engineer. So that's like the difference. And then they sort of split up the roles between everyone in there. So it's fairly like level playing field, with each team having, like each group rather, not each team, having, they get put into a group, and then there's a supervisor for that group. So that's, that's kind of like the structure. It's a bit weird, but I guess it sort of works for them. And it's not a huge team. I think there's like 20 people at the place I'm at. So it's not huge, but it's not that small. For Australia anyway, it's pretty decently sized.
Not gonna lie, like field security engineer kind of sounds pretty sexy though. I'll be like, fun. My name's Gazzarella. I'm a field security engineer. It's like, oh, cool. What do you do? It's like, let's not talk about me. Let's talk about you.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
if I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Essentially, just put up the NDA firewall straight up.
Oh man, there's a really good question here from Stan313. And they said, things to learn or know before landing a job in a SOC. What do you reckon?
110% security plus. If we're talking about certifications, security plus, network plus. Networking is, I think, probably like to know what packets look like, where they're going, what they're doing, the interactions between different endpoints. That is such a vital point. Like there's like majority of the time, the alarms that you get are just correlated events. So you're gonna have to investigate the deep fucking packets in that as well. So there's a lot that you'll need to sort of figure out. Going, okay, well, okay, cool. The source IP and the destination IP. Yep, cool. This is the protocol it's doing. This is the information that it's got. Is this malicious? That sort of thing. The whole like the step-by-step investigation process. I think you actually end up learning more on the job than you would like outside, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah. With the certifications you mentioned, do you reckon they're critical to get a job, or do you think it's just something that's good to know before getting into a SOC?
So me personally, I don't have my Security Plus or my Cyber Plus. I'm working on it to get it, but I have a bachelor's in like majoring in cybersecurity.
Right.
As long as you can, it all comes down to how well you can sell yourself, right? Yep. So if you can give a well-descripted explanation on how you demonstrated your skills on your networking fundamentals, your security fundamentals, then I think you should be, majority of the time you should be pretty good. It depends on the hiring manager, of course. There's definitely some real traditional ones like, no, you have to have like 25 years experience and like come in at like, for $3,000 a pop. And then there's others where it's like, I don't care where you come from. Do you know how to do the job? Can you do it successfully? Show me the evidence of the cool shit that you've done, and yeah, come on in. So it's definitely a mix up for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that actually. I saw a post earlier by a recruiter that I respect above all of the cybersecurity recruiters that I know. His name's Ricky Burke, and he posted. Let me see if I can find it real quick. He posted on LinkedIn, and I'll see if I can bring this up on my other screen so you can all see it. Just bear with me one sec. I gotta switch things up on my screen here quick.
While you do that, There's a question in there that I think is pretty good. How much SOC teams do actual pen testing as part of their regular duties? It depends on the pillars of the SOC team. So there's, I think, like 7 or 8 pillars now.
Yep.
If one of them consists of like compliance or auditing and all that stuff, then majority of the time you probably end up with like a pen testing team. We utilize it in a target team or a purple team manner, where the pen testers go out to the client and do their thing, and then we'll try and do our thing and try and figure out where the gaps are on that point. So that's a good question.
Yeah. There's another one there about work-life balance as well as what is a SOC, which I'll get to in a second. But this, someone said he just opened up LinkedIn and this was the first post he saw. It's a pretty interesting thing. So he says, I just spoke with someone who kept asking which qualification they need. I wanted to ask which qualifications or certifications should I learn to get a cybersecurity job. And Ricky said his answer is none, which to me I was quite surprised to see that. And I think there's a little bit more context behind this, so I'll read on the rest and then I'll say my point of view on it. Gaining the certification to get a job is the wrong approach. Even though there are over 300 security-related certifications, in my opinion, hardly any of them will land you a job. Some might get you an interview. And I completely agree with him here. This guy then said to him, maybe he will pursue a master's degree in cybersecurity. And Ricky then said to him, no, that's also the wrong approach. The most straightforward path to use is to number 1, decide which area of security you want to work in. For example, GRC, pen testing, incident response, application security, etc., etc., etc. Because each requires a different skill set, which again is absolutely true. Number 2, through research and speaking with people who perform these roles, find out the skills required. What do they do on a day-to-day basis? Number 3, go learn those skills that you just found out about. Some might come in the way of a certification, but there are plenty of free or reasonably priced options. which I completely agree with. There is a lot of really good courses out there that you can pick up to learn everything you need to know to get into a SOC or to get into one of those different avenues like GRC, pen testing, IR, application security, etc. And then his second last one is to, during this time, build relationships, get to know people who can help you with knowledge, and they might even be able to get you a job later down the track. So that sort of focuses on it's not so much what you know, or in this case, what certifications you have, but who you know. And that is, again, absolutely true. Last point, keep on trying. So it's an interesting point of view, and it's an interesting topic, I think, to talk about. And I've messaged Ricky to see if I can have a chat with him, because I'd really like to learn more about this. One thing he seems to have left out here that may, I don't know if it's going to confuse any of them or something like that, but I'm not sure if that's the right wording either, but I think having a degree in IT/cybersecurity is these days, it is the minimum to get a job. I think, anyway. That's my own personal opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not. It doesn't matter. That's just my point of view. To have the certifications, I think, does sometimes lend towards getting a job. Just like Ricky said here, it might help to get you in front in an interview. But like Gaz said earlier, it's also about how well you can sell yourself. So if you're a fairly outgoing person in an interview who can prove your point rather, and get the point across on why you should be hired and what's so great about you, that's sort of the key to getting any job, not just an IT security job or whatever. Even if you wanted to become a business development manager, you still need to be able to sell yourself fairly well. And I think that's a pretty important point to raise there. I don't know. What do you reckon, Gaz?
I reckon that's pretty good. I'm kind of on the board of like, depending on your particular use case, not everyone's going to be able to go to uni. If you're not able to go to uni, then the equivalent should be network plus security plus, maybe even CyberSec at that point. As long as you can build that foundational level knowledge, and even if you're working at a sysadmin or whatever, if you can say, hey, I know how the stuff that you're looking for, i.e. if you're going into a SOC, I know how it works. I know how SSL interrelations work. It really, if you can put yourself in the mind of the recruiter, and go, okay, well, this person, we need these certain things. I can just give you examples of these certain things, and it doesn't matter what my background's been. As long as I can do them and I can show that I can do them, then you got a better chance than someone coming, fresh out.
For sure. That's actually another good segue onto a question from Dan Lincoln here, who said, what is the best way to demonstrate skills if I'm looking for an entry-level role? I think there's lots of different ways you can demonstrate skills, from doing things like if you want to become a web app pen tester, then maybe demonstrating your skills in the bug bounty community might be a great way to show that sort of stuff. Also, just building like little home labs, and you can do it fairly cheap, if not for free, with things like VirtualBox and like even if you want to use Raspberry Pis and do like an attack defense type situation, or to even set up something like a firewall on a Raspberry Pi, or maybe a Pi-hole, or there's lots of different security focused projects that you can do with Raspberry Pis, which like they only cost like $50, which if that might be a lot of money for some people, I'm not too sure, but even if that is, you can do this on a VirtualBox instead, which is free as long as you have a computer. So it's
on that point as well, though. Like the one of the most popular questions I've been coming into interviews and like receiving is like, what's your home network like? Like, have you got any home projects, that sort of thing? And
Yeah, right.
yeah, that totally coincides with what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I have seen a fair bit of that before, and I think that does, like having these little home projects, it might seem like something really useless, but when you're going into an interview and they ask you what sort of projects you're into or what your hobbies are, and hobbies is something that a HR person will definitely ask because they want to try and understand what kind of person you are and if you're going to fit in with the team. And discussing these sort of hobbies or projects as a hobby is sometimes something that can help to get you over the line. So, yeah, I think that's having these sort of projects. They may seem silly at the time, but the point is that down the line, it may actually come in handy. Yeah, so that's sort of where that one goes.
Yeah.
Sai Varma has asked, what are the career options we have inside InfoSec after level 1 SOC? You can move in lots of different directions once you get into a SOC. So you can go into, maybe you want to go to pen testing, or maybe you want to go into a GRC team. Maybe you really loved those compliance meetings and you're oozing with confidence of talking about governance, risk, and compliance. So maybe that's your jam. I don't know. Some people really love it. Me, not so much. But everyone, lots of other people really enjoy it. So that's definitely something you can get into. And actually, speaking about GRC, I know this lady. She's a lawyer, and she just had enough of family law. She had her law degree and everything. She got sick of family law. She ended up becoming a risk compliance officer in a cybersecurity team, and she loves it. She reckons it's like the best thing ever. So, I mean, if that sort of thing is up to you, then yeah, I mean, that's one way you could move within a SOC team from a level 1 SOC analyst type role. But yeah, there's lots of different things you can do, like threat hunting. You can even get into like investigation teams, which I guess is sort of threat hunting, but a little bit different. Yeah, so that's that one. I'll see if there's another question about SOC teams. I'm trying to avoid all the other ones. What's the best? Yeah, I already did that. Say Lang, sorry if I've butchered your name, says, hello, may I ask, from your experience, what security technologies and tools should be the priorities in a SOC in a financial sector? Like a SOC roadmap for the financial sector. That's an interesting one. The main thing in a SOC team, especially in like a large financial sector like a bank, for example, is they're probably going to be using a pretty high-end, and by high-end I just mean expensive, scene. To be honest.
Sorry.
It's true.
Sorry, it is so true.
I mean, I'm just giving you the raw truth here, man. So they will pay for the most expensive one, which in most cases is Splunk. And especially with all the additional plugins and different blades and stuff you can throw at it. So, that's, I mean, if you want to get into a SOC, specifically in a financial sector, have a look at the Splunk Essentials course. I'm pretty sure it's free if you... Well, it used to be free anyway. Do you know if it's still free?
Yeah, so it's Splunk Fundamentals 1 and 2, and then it goes into the Splunk Certified User and Certified Engineer. The Splunk Fundamentals 1 is free. Splunk Fundamentals 2 is definitely not so free.
Yeah. The second one's one that's like $1,000 or something crazy.
Around about $2,000, yeah.
$2,000. Wow. Okay. Hectic. Yeah. Right. Anyway, yeah. What other tool? Do you know anything about the financial sector SOC at all?
Oh, do I? Oh boy, do I. Okay. So Splunk. Yeah, you were definitely right in the money for that one. utilizing the blades of the enterprise security and even stuff like Phantom. If people aren't familiar with Phantom, it's like a automated playbook tool, essentially, all written in Python and lovely GUI and all that sort of stuff. It's great. The other thing as well is I've utilized a lot of the Microsoft Security Suite stuff. So stuff like MDATP, O365, like web security or something. A lot of Azure stuff as well. Like Azure's got Sentinel as well. I know some people like to use Sentinel, but I would put Sentinel like maybe a hairline above McAfee at this point. The
DevOps you can do on the back end of that is pretty cool though. But I would agree that you get what you pay for in this case.
First, Sentinel,
yeah.
What else is there? There's definitely been some utilization on not just firewall management like Fortinet, but
like load balancers as well as all your F5 stuff as well.
Yep. And then even going down into like email filtering as well. I know some like email security tools like Symantec, even though it's, a lot of people have like so-and-so opinions about it, it can be pretty useful in cases.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it definitely has its place. With
I think
with the going back to the tin side of things, and by tin I mean like actual devices, or even not devices like virtual firewalls. The sort of banks and financial sectors, they usually, because of the kind of data that they have in their possession, they usually want to protect it with something pretty serious. So they will be usually, in most cases, especially banks, I've found anyway from ones that I've seen, have pretty serious firewalls, like device firewalls, and they have them in stacks. And they're not cheap. Like some of these firewalls, like some of the checkpoint firewalls that they're running are like $90,000, $100,000 each, and they have a high availability stack of 3 or 4 of them. And
that's cheap.
That's one of the cheaper ones for like maybe like, I don't know, one of the Queensland banks. I won't drop any names. Yeah. But yeah, for larger banks, like, I won't mention names of the yellow one, but they would definitely have huge infrastructure, and it's like millions of dollars worth of security infrastructure. So there is all of that as well. So I think that's something fairly important to look at, is not so much just the software, but also the firewall that they are using. You won't really know that, of course, until you get in there, or if you start pen testing it, which I definitely would not recommend. You'll learn about all that next generation firewall stuff. So and there's a lot in there. Like these firewalls themselves are a management system of their own. Like they actually have management systems of their own. Especially once you get,
it's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, they're freaking crazy. Like the Checkpoint and Palo Alto firewalls, the really high end ones, they're just insane. And they do stuff like application filtering and email filtering, even like URL filtering and warnings on URLs and all that stuff that Symantec used to be able to do, or still does do actually. That you can have it all controlled under one thing, which if that's your thing, then great. Next question. I'm going to have a look through the list here. This is an interesting question, and I like this guy's name. His name is Haitian JD. Says, I'm a personal banker and I hate my job. Welcome to the club, bro. How do I switch to cybersecurity analyst without experience? Without experience is going to be tricky. do you have any IT experience? Being a personal banker going into IT, especially security, straight from being a personal banker is going to be a little bit tricky, unfortunately. What I would do is focus on learning as much as you can before potentially doing some sort of formal education and going with that sort of route into the industry.
I actually, one of my closest friends, he has some of the highest level, highest sought out pen testing qualifications, and he came from a personal banking side. He's doing the exact same thing, so it's definitely doable.
Yeah,
definitely doable.
For sure. Dan Lincoln has another great question. He says, if more companies are moving to the cloud, how will this impact SOC teams? Are there SOC teams for cloud-based companies? This question is pretty interesting because it's actually one of the ones that I face when I go out to different clients and I'm talking about security architecture stuff, and they're saying, "Oh, we're not going to need your services anymore because we're getting rid of all of our on-premise infrastructure and we're moving everything to the cloud. It's all going to be safe." And I have to hold myself back from laughing and in their face, because that's not the case at all. There's still plenty of risks that you get with having a cloud environment, if not more. So it's there's the impact of moving, the impact for a SOC, for a company that's moved to the cloud, or lots of companies going to the cloud, is there's things like data locations, which in government is a very serious topic. They don't allow for, in a lot of cases anyway, the smaller organizations don't care too much because they don't have to. It's not one of their compliance items. But the larger ones definitely do. They want to know exactly which data center in which country their data is in. So there's that requirement, which a lot of the time requires them to actually stay as a hybrid environment. It's an easier way to get around that. The other thing is you can still pen test an Azure cloud, full cloud Azure environment. There's plenty of ways to break into an Azure environment with things like PowerShell escalation, or privilege escalation rather, through PowerShell, which if you were able to connect to someone's Exchange server remotely, and because it's a cloud server, and you somehow manage to do some privilege escalation on that Exchange server, then there is a high possibility that you will be able to compromise that system. So I'm not saying the cloud is not safer. I'm just saying it's a different, it's just a different thing to pen test. Yeah, it's a different environment. It's a different landscape. It's just a different thing but you can still break into it just like anything else.
Yeah, in terms of the monitoring side of things, you still have listeners, you still have correlating engines, you still have I guess it depends on what's being moved to the cloud. If it's if you're doing some sort of what's it called, I guess anything like an infrastructure as a service, you're able to monitor that stuff, or anything that provides software as a service. You yourself won't get a listener on that particular device or anything like that. But most of the time, AWS or Azure will have capabilities to for alert monitoring, right? So with transitioning, you really got to adapt to. I wouldn't say adapt as much as try and build a monitoring system that's capable for lots of things and can evolve essentially. So it can, because cloud might not exist in the next 20 years. It might be something completely different, some weird port jacking thing in cyberspace. Cyberspace turns into neural networks of our literal brains from Ghost in the Shell or something. So
Yeah, that's it. I'm going to turn this little thing on here for a second. If anyone wants to jump in and have a chat with us live, jump into the Discord server. There's a massive link up above here, discord.gg/DC CyberSec. You can have your voice heard literally. And yeah, come and have a chat. I'm going to answer another question here just before I bring someone in, if anyone wants to come in. The question was from the Fox 3300. And they said, hey, I have achieved my CCNA, but looking to move towards InfoSec Analyst Level 1. Been working at a service desk for 2+ years. Other than Security Plus, anything I can further progress on? So you want to get into InfoSec Analyst Level 1. Security Plus, pretty good option. I want to tell you to get an OSCP, but I don't know if it's the right answer. I feel like it might be a little bit overkill, and it might also be the wrong direction as far as a certification goes. I would probably look more towards the networking side of things, with something like you just got your CCNA, which is really great, but having experience as a network engineer or having access to network security protocols would be really, really helpful towards pushing you into that InfoSec analyst role. So, for example, if you're going from help desk, you want to go upwards and then across. That would be, I think, the easiest way, especially if you are in Australia or even the US. Having the CCNA and moving into a network engineer role and then focusing on that for like a year or two, and then moving into an InfoSec or cybersecurity analyst role would probably be the easiest way to get across, I think. But that's not to say that having your CCNA and a Security Plus won't get you into an InfoSec role or a CyberSec role. It depends on sort of where you are and yeah, how sort of focused and well presented you are in those interviews to getting that job. Sort of like what we were talking about just before. Yeah. I'm going to check the chat. Is anyone in the waiting room? No one is in the waiting room yet.
I would ask, like, what's stopping you at the moment for applying? Is it just like availability of any like InfoSec jobs at all, or because I know a lot of people end up coming into like, so there's some great minds out there, and when I ask them, it's like, oh, you've done all these like certifications, why haven't you applied to anything yet? It's like, oh, because I haven't got, these other certifications I want to get. That you might get stuck with like paralysis by certifications, essentially, like thinking that you're not going to be you're not going to be able to pass that first job interview with the stuff that you have, so you're not going to bother even applying. Just continue on doing certifications until you feel that you're ready. Yeah. Which with imposter syndrome, that's going to be real hard to do. True. I would literally start applying for anything that you can. You've achieved a CCNA, that's fantastic. You've got a capability to learn new things. In your current role at service desk, ask your boss for stuff like a day in the life of secondments. So where you spend a day with another team, or you use your annual leave in another team to ask questions to see what things are about, how things are done, and then add that to your experience belt. But yeah, sure. That's probably the next steps I would go into.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab Planty. He's in the waiting room here, so I'm gonna drag him in here real quick. Here he is, Planty. Welcome to the live chat, man.
Hey, man.
Hey, man. How's it going?
Yeah, good.
Yes, I guess I'll just hit you off with the question then.
Yeah, man. Yeah, what's up?
Fine. At the moment, and I did a year, my gap year doing IT.
Yep.
Just sysadmin stuff. Not much security, unfortunately. That's just how it be.
Yep.
Not a big business focus, unfortunately. But I guess if you guys had any advice for me and similar people in my sort of position on whether it'd be worth trying to fit that work-life balance, getting a 3-day-a-week job on the side, or just waiting until after I finished off uni and going for the higher salaries for grad roles.
You go first, Gaz.
So throughout my time at uni, I had 2 or 3 other jobs, but I'm a bit of a maniac and don't like sleep, so usually it's not recommended. If I could say that if you can balance the two, maybe go for the 2. Like, of course, you got to have some sort of you're going to need some sort of income through like uni days and all sorts of stuff. And of course, having experience with that is fantastic. If your use case can suit your balancing, then I'd say give it a go. If not, then just focus on uni. There's plenty of people who haven't gone through like the split, half a job, half at uni, and have got really high paying, cash grab jobs and all sorts of stuff. So it's definitely doable either way. It just depends on your use case, really.
Yeah, I'm sort of from the other side where I found university to be very difficult, and I mean I had a job when I was at uni, but it was pretty brainless. Like I was literally working in a bar at like a rugby club. So I wasn't really focused on IT outside of uni. I was just doing uni and then going and working in a bar and serving drinks. So for me, that was sort of more than enough for me to focus on at the time. So I guess if I did it all over again, would I get a job, or would I try and get a job? I don't know, but I like Gaz's answer on it. Sort of like depends on you and I guess how far. But I don't think it's like, if the question is if it's necessary, I don't think it is.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's I'll just see how it goes, because I have a blast like playing down on the CTF or whatever, and working on my home lab. And if I do get a job, you don't want to let that go by the wayside. I do have a lot of fun on this sort of side projects.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I saw you competed in the Down Under CTF as well.
Yeah. I had a great time.
Yeah, it was a good one.
I'm hoping to lead a couple, because I'm down in Canberra, so we have Signals Directorate and all the other Gulf folks breathing down my neck.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
Plenty of stuff
So
going
I'm
on
hoping
down
to
there.
run some CTFs.
Are you going to B-Sides Canberra?
Yeah, sure am.
Oh, nice. That'll be fun.
You fellas coming, or you're over in Queensland?
No, yeah, I can't get time out from stuff here, unfortunately.
I'm in WA. It costs about $3,000 flight. So
holy shit!
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah.
Were you at WA CTF or?
Yeah. What did we end up coming, DC? I can't remember.
I don't know.
13th, I think.
Something
we
like
were
it's
up
like
against
13th or 16th. Though 16th rings a bell. I don't
know.
know.
It's 16th then. Yeah, I might be pushing up a couple of points. But no, it was a fantastic time. How'd you go with the Down Under CTF plane questions? Do you remember those?
Which ones, sorry?
It was like a plane.
That.
One?
The OSINT
yeah,
one.
that. Yeah.
Nah, I didn't get too far with those ones. Had a great time though. I really rate the OSINT shows.
Yeah.
I'm pretty early days, so pretty arse at Binder and Pwn, but I have a great time on OSINT, Miss Forensics, all that stuff. Yeah.
Man, I struggled so hard with that OSINT challenge. It really grinded my gears, actually. It's giving me PTSD thinking about it. Oh man!
Even the trains as well. It was so bad. You spend like 8 hours just on Google Maps, literally just clicking and dragging.
I reckon I did spend a solid 8 hours on that train, like just looking at the same train track in a bush. I was like, I swear it's this one. What do you mean the coordinates are wrong? God, I was so angry.
I was gonna say, man, I swear if you say trains to anyone who played that CTF, you'll get fucked.
Yeah. Just
hello,
triggered.
My old friend.
Just gonna get triggered. All right, I'm gonna leave you in the voice chat, man. We're gonna answer some more questions.
Good.
We'll just do it all together. So, the Fox
Thanks,
replied
Mike.
back, he said, after getting the CCNA, although I enjoy networking, I'm not sure I would be wanting to configure firewalls level 2/3 devices all day. However, I do find learning InfoSec more varied and interesting. Network security engineers don't really just configure firewalls or level 2 or layer 2/3 devices all day. There's a lot more to it than that. But I would like it's a bit more involved than that. But if you really don't want to do it, that's absolutely fine. Just get that Security Plus, start applying for jobs. You've already got experience in IT, which is great. You'll have all the certifications you need to get the job. You just need to then work on your presentation skills and get yourself out there and into the world. So, yeah, I mean, you don't have to do network engineering. It's just sort of like a suggestion on how to move laterally into it. But, yeah. Anyway, this stream has been going for 1 hour and 10 minutes, which is long enough for me. I've got to do some work quickly and then go to bed. So thanks everyone for joining. Thanks Gaz for coming into the chat. It's always good to have you on here and helping me answer these questions. For anyone who is here and is new, please do give me a like on the video. It does help the channel a lot. Subscribe if you want to subscribe. Join the Discord server, which is linked above here. It's also in the description if you want to have a chat with me or Gaz or any of the other 3,000 people-ish in the server. We're all happy to help out where we can and try and build a community that helps each other. That's sort of what it's all about. Yeah, I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for coming along. It's been good as always. And yeah, catch you later, guys.